Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This is the fourth in my Christmas designs for this holiday season, and I'm really pleased with it. I think it's very pretty. It's actually quite simple. Once you get things run through and cut, it's just assembling the card. This one has some design on the inside, and that's the same detail I put on the envelope for this card. So let me tell you what you're going to need to do this card. You're going to need a piece of real red, and this measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And you can see I've already adhered the front panel that I've embossed on here because this is take 2 of my video. And so you need 2 pieces of Whisper White that measure 5 1/4 by 4 inches for the front. Then you need a myriad of small pieces. We need a piece of gold foil for our Noel here, and that needs to be 2 inches by 4 inches roughly. And then we need a piece of very early espresso, a piece of scrap to cut my pine cones, a piece of wild wasabi for the little greenery pieces, and a piece of real red, and that little combination makes the sort of mistletoe looking thing on the front of this card. Then you need a scrap of Whisper White to cut a couple of these pine boughs. And so to save time, I've cut those things, but let me tell you about the sandwich that I put together to do that. For the embossing folder, you need your Big Shot platform, then you need your 2 lucite plates, one on the bottom, and then your embossing folder. And let's see, where did my embossing folder get to? It is the embossing folder name is the Pine Bough Textured Impressions folder, and you put your piece of paper inside the embossing folder and run this through the Big Shot, and this is what you get. And I'll probably run across it in a minute as I do. There it is. I can show it to you. So there's the Pine Bough embossing folder. That's what we're using today. Then for cutting the Noel and the greenery, I used the base platform and my thin die adapter, and then I used my paper pieces here, and then, a cutting plate first, your paper, your dies, your top cutting plate, and you run that through the Big Shot. Now for the more intricate cuts, that would be these pine cones here and this little piece of red. What I did was I used the same base, the Big Shot platform, the thin die adapter. Then I put on my precision base plate. Then I put on the pieces that I needed for that, and the dies, and 1 plate for the top, and you run that through the Big Shot, and that is the sandwich you need to cut out things that are a little bit more intricate. Okay, let me move these things out of the way, and I can show you the pieces that I cut. You can see my embossed piece on the front of here, and then the other pieces, let me leave that out, that we got were the 2 little pieces of greenery and the little red to make the mistletoe, and then my Noel. Let me just, all pieces have so many little pieces that stick together. My Noel, and then my 2 pine bough pieces that I cut out of white, Whisper White cardstock. And the only other thing I used was a little of this pretty 1/8 of an inch gold ribbon on the top of the cluster of material that I have in the corner here. Now, the materials that I'm using then are the dies, and the wonderful Wreath Framelit dies is where the Noel comes from, and that is this little die here that is Noel, and it's a very easy die to cut. Then I used the Pretty Pines Thinlit dies, and I used the pine pieces, and I used the pine cones and the pieces to make the mistletoe. And so that's what that was. Then I also used the Christmas Pine stamp set, the one that matches the Pretty Pines Thinlit dies, and this can be this can be purchased in a bundle. And when you order them together, you save 10% over what you would spend buying them separately. And this, I use this stamp here, which is a pine bough spray, and I use the stamp for the pine cone for the inside detail of the card. So once we get everything put together here, and let me find all of my little pine cone pieces here. There we go. Then it's a matter of just assembling this card. It really is pretty easy. So I adhered this particular, this embossed piece to the front of my card, and I'm going to do my stamping. So I'm going to take a piece of white here and my piercing mat and a little bit of scratch paper, and I've mounted my stamps here, my pine bough and my pine cone, and I'm using Old Olive ink and Early Espresso ink. So I'm going to open up the Old Olive here, and I'm going to ink up my pine boughs. And what I did was, with the card set down vertically here, I am putting one set of these pine boughs along the top edge and going off the page just a little. There we have one impression. And then what I did was, to give it a little fuller look, I stamped this, inked this up again. Get ink off my fingers here. And I kind of space these pine boughs here just in these spaces to make it look a little bit more full. So I set that down and put that impression in, and there it looks like a more full spray of pine boughs there. Then that's all I need that ink for. Then I have my Early Espresso ink here for my pine cone, and I'm going to stamp one of those pine cones here, and then I'm going to put another one just up here facing the other way. There we go. And I'll move that out of the way and close that ink up, because that's all I need that ink for as well. Okay, so now we can put this on the inside of the card, and I'll be using Tombow for this so that I can set it in place and move it around till I get it where I want it. And there we have our inside piece done. And the rest of this is just assembly. So I need my silicone mat here, and I used a series of Tombow glue and glue dots to set everything in place. So the first thing I did was lay down the two white pine pieces, and I did those with a glue dot. And what I would say to you is to make sure that you put your pine boughs far enough down in this corner, from the corner, because you're going to layer a lot of things on top, that it shows out the bottom. And I just thought it was nice to have that dimensional quality over and above the embossed pieces there. So there are my 2 pieces of pine. Then I used a little bit of Tombow on my greenery here, and I put some on these 2 bottom leaves and the stem, and then put those in place so that they went on either side of the pine. Let me put the other one down now. So a little Tombow, and this one I put more on this side of the pine. Then we have our little red mistletoe piece, and I used Tombow for that, and just kind of stuck it down here between the 2 pieces of greenery. I'm going to hold that in place for just a second while that sets. Now, that looks a little messy on top, but once I put my pieces of pine cone down, it'll cover all of that up. So this one that is with an open cut to it, I used a little bit of Tombow on the back just to get a little bit of glue and put that one down first, kind of going off to the side and up a little bit, because this nice solid one can go here and cover all of those pieces that we've put down so far. And that I also used a little bit of Tombow just on the top of the pine cone here. And hold that in place for just a second. Now, for this piece, I use Tombow as well, because Tombow cleans off a little bit better than snail does. I've seen people just run the runner along the back side of this, and if you get some on the foil, it's pretty hard to get off. So I'm just going to dot a little bit of the Tombow in these places here, and then use my tweezers to pick that up and move that out of the way now, and place this down here at the bottom, and just lightly pat that into place. There we go. And the last thing we need for our project to be complete is to put a little bow here at the top, and I thought it would be nice to match the gold ribbon. Now this, while it's got lots of parts and pieces, it really is a pretty simple little card, and it doesn't always have to be elaborate to have high impact or to give you the look that you want. And so I don't want this bow to be too big here. About that size looks good. Let me pull that tight. Okay, and use my snips to trim away. If you can tie them off of your spool of ribbon, you save the waste on one side. If you pick a larger piece of ribbon than you need. So with this, I'm going to use a glue dot, and I'm going to take my paper piercer here and fold one of these glue dots over on itself so that it's about half its normal size. And I'm going to put that on the back side of my bow, and then put that little bow into place at the top of the piece. And there we go. There is our Christmas card. This is one that you could do quite a few of at a time by doing your cutting first and then your embossing and then assembling. Anyway, that is the project for today, and I think it's very pretty. It's got a lot of dimensional detail with both the embossing folder and then these cut pieces, and then the decoration inside I think is really very pretty, and like I said, that easily goes on your envelope as well. So that's our project for today, and thank you so much for stopping by and visiting my YouTube channel. If you wanted to purchase anything that I've used here today, you can get it on my 24/7 shop, lbedinger.stampinup.net. And if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. All of the materials and the measurements for today's card are down below, as usual, along with the hostess code for ordering for this month. My giveaway this month is the Scalloped Topper Punch. And if you place an order with me of $25 or more, then you get a product gift from me as well. So again, thanks for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with another 3D project or another card. And until then, bye.